My twin sister called me forgettable. The word stuck to my skin like a scar I couldn't see but always felt. We were born 3 minutes apart in Austin, Texas, 1992, genetically identical but treated like opposite ends of a spectrum. She was the light everyone gravitated toward. I was the shadow they walked past without noticing. My name is Naomi Blair. I am a twin. Or rather, I am the other twin. What I'm about to tell you is how I went from being invisible to impossible to ignore. How the daughter no one remembered became the voice everyone needed to hear. And how my sister, who promised I'd be forgotten, now sits in audiences listening to my story. If you've ever felt unseen in your own family, if you've ever been compared to someone and found lacking, if you've ever wondered if you'd ever be enough, leave a like right now. Comment where you're watching from. Subscribe. Because this story, you're never going to forget it. It started the way all quiet tragedies do, with love that existed but attention that didn't reach me. I have a box of photographs from our childhood. If you look at them, you cannot tell us apart. Same brown hair, same green eyes, same freckles scattered across our noses like constellations. But if you look at the faces around us in those photos, you'll see the truth. You'll see who was loved and who was tolerated. My mother, Evelyn, was an English teacher with a poet's soul and a clear favorite. Harper, she would say, was born to shine. Harper had charisma. Harper made people feel alive. Me. I was the easy one, the quiet one. The one who didn't need as much attention because I never asked for it. My father, David, worked as a sound technician for events around Austin. He was gentle but passive, always agreeing with whatever Mom said. When she praised Harper, he nodded. When I tried to share something I'd written, he'd say, "That's nice, sweetheart," and turn back to his equipment. Nice. That was my word. Harper was extraordinary. I was nice. The division started early. I remember being 4 years old, maybe 5, and overhearing Mom on the phone with my grandmother Judith. "Harper is just so vibrant," she said, laughing. "She's going to do something incredible with her life. Naomi? Well, Naomi is sweet. She'll be fine." Sweet, fine. Words that felt like being patted on the head and dismissed. Our bedrooms told the story better than words ever could. Harper's room was painted lavender with glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, a canopy bed draped in white tulle, shelves filled with dolls and books about princesses and adventurers. My room was beige. Just beige. No decorations, no personality. When I asked why, Mom said, "You're not fussy about those things, honey. Harper needs the stimulation." I was 6. I didn't know I was allowed to be fussy. Birthdays were the worst. We shared a birthday, obviously, but the celebrations never felt shared. I remember turning 8. Mom baked a cake, pink frosting with both our names, but when people sang, they looked at Harper. She blew out the candles. She opened the big presents first. I got a journal and colored pencils. Harper got a bike, bright red with streamers on the handlebars and a bell that rang clear and loud. I still have that journal. I filled every page with words I never said out loud. School amplified everything. Harper was the girl everyone wanted to be friends with, the one picked first for teams, the one invited to every birthday party. I was the one teachers forgot to call on, the one who ate lunch reading books because sitting alone felt safer than trying to join conversations where I didn't fit. When we brought home the same grades, the reactions were different. Harper got, "I'm so proud of you, baby." I got, "You're so diligent, Naomi. Keep it up." Diligent. Another word that meant invisible. There was one person who saw me, though. My grandmother Judith, Mom's mother, visited often. She'd sit with me on the porch while Harper performed for the family inside. Judith would ask about my stories, the ones I scribbled in notebooks. "You have a gift, Naomi," she'd say. "Words can change the world. Don't let anyone make you believe your voice doesn't matter." I wanted to believe her. But when your own mother looks through you like glass, it's hard to feel solid. Harper wasn't cruel on purpose. She just took up all the space. She borrowed my clothes without asking and returned them stained. She copied my ideas for school projects and got praised while I was told I'd done well, too. When I got my first crush at 13, a boy named Tyler in our science class, Harper flirted with him at lunch. He asked her to the 8th grade dance. She said yes. When I cried in the bathroom, she found me and said, "Don't be weird about it, Nay. He was never going to pick you anyway." She wasn't trying to hurt me. She just genuinely believed it. That's when I started to understand. Harper didn't steal from me. She just didn't think I had anything worth protecting. And my family agreed. I was the backup, the spare, the one who existed, so Harper had someone to shine brighter against. I looked at my reflection and tried to find what was missing. Why wasn't I enough? We were identical. What made her the star and me the stage? I stopped trying to compete. I stopped raising my hand in class when I knew the answer. I stopped sharing my writing, my thoughts, my dreams. I became exactly what they expected: quiet, easy, forgettable. And the worst part? I started to believe it was who I really was. By the time we graduated high school, Harper had a full ride to UT Austin for communications. She was going to be someone, everyone said. I went to community college and worked part-time at a coffee shop downtown. I was going to be fine. That's what Mom told people. Naomi will be fine. She's practical. But something inside me, something small and stubborn, refused to disappear completely. It whispered late at night when I couldn't sleep. It said, "You are not fine. You are not forgettable. You are not less than her." But I didn't know how to listen yet. I didn't know how to become the person that voice believed I could be. And then Harper said the words that broke everything and rebuilt me. Harper graduated from UT Austin with a degree in communications and a social media following that had started to grow. She was magnetic. Even I had to admit it. She'd post motivational quotes over sunset photos, talk about self-love and empowerment, share her morning routines and skincare tips. People loved her. By 23, she had 15,000 followers. By 25, she was doing paid partnerships with local Austin brands, giving talks at women's networking events, calling herself a lifestyle influencer and motivational speaker. I was 25 and working at a library, checking out books and reshelving returns in alphabetical order. I'd left the coffee shop for something quieter, something where I could disappear into the stacks and not have to perform cheerfulness for customers. I also did freelance copy editing on the side, fixing other people's words for $40 an hour. I lived in a studio apartment near campus, small and plain and mine. Harper lived in a trendy loft downtown that our parents helped pay for because, as Mom explained, she's building a brand. It's an investment. The pattern from childhood had intensified. Harper's life was documented, celebrated, shared. Mine was private, unremarkable, dismissed. Family dinners were showcases for Harper's latest achievement. She'd talk about a brand deal, a speaking gig, a collaboration. Dad would beam. Mom would take photos for Harper's Instagram. When they remembered to ask about me, I'd say work was fine, life was fine, everything was fine. They'd nod and turn back to Harper. Fine wasn't interesting, but Harper had started doing something new. She'd always borrowed from me, physically and emotionally, but now she was taking my identity itself. It started small. She'd post quotes I'd said in private conversations, phrased as her own wisdom. I'd recognize my words coming out of her mouth in videos. When I mentioned it once, she laughed and said, "Oh, Nay, you're so paranoid. These are universal thoughts. I didn't steal your diary." But she had. Not literally, but close enough. Then it got worse. I'd been writing in private for years. Essays about family dynamics and sibling relationships, about feeling invisible. I showed a piece to Harper once, something raw about being compared. 2 weeks later, she posted a blog titled "Growing Up in the Shadow of Comparison," telling a story remarkably similar to mine, except she was the protagonist. People praised her vulnerability, my words, her platform. When I confronted her, she said, "I transformed your experience into something relatable. You should be flattered. No one would have read it if you posted it." She genuinely believed she'd improved my story by stealing it. I had been dating someone briefly. His name was Marcus, a librarian I'd met at work. He was kind, soft-spoken, loved poetry. We'd been seeing each other for 3 months when Harper invited us both to her birthday party at a rooftop bar. She wore a gold dress that shimmered under string lights. She laughed loud and told stories that made everyone lean in. Marcus leaned in too. By the end of the night, he was sitting next to her, captivated. A week later, he told me he thought we should take a break. 2 weeks after that, Harper posted a photo of them at some art gallery opening, his arm around her waist. She captioned it, "Sometimes the best things find you when you stop looking." She never apologized. Neither did he. When I tried to talk to my parents about it, Mom sighed like I was being dramatic. Naomi, Harper didn't steal him. People are attracted to who they're attracted to. You can't expect her to turn down happiness just because you dated him first. Dad said nothing, just looked uncomfortable and changed the subject. My feelings were inconvenient. Harper's happiness was sacred. There was a night, I remember it exactly, when everything shattered. I was 27. Harper had been invited to give a short talk at a local TEDx-style event about authenticity and finding your voice. I went to support her, sitting in the back row. She walked on stage in a white blazer, confident and glowing, and started her speech. "For years, I felt like I was living for everyone else's approval," she said. "I was performing a version of myself that wasn't real." The audience was rapt. I felt sick. Those were my words, from a journal entry I'd shared with her during a vulnerable moment when I was trying to explain why I'd started therapy. She took my pain, repackaged it as her journey, and received a standing ovation. After the event, we met at a bar nearby. She was buzzing with adrenaline, riding the high of applause. "I killed it, didn't I?" she said, grinning. I stared at her. "Harper, that was my story. You used my exact words." She rolled her eyes. "Nay, everyone feels that way. It's not proprietary. You're always so sensitive." I felt my chest tighten. "I shared that with you in confidence. You turned my therapy breakthroughs into your content." She leaned back, studying me with something between pity and amusement. "You know what your problem is, Naomi?" I waited. My hands were shaking under the table. "You're forgettable," she said. The words landed like a slap. "I love you. You're my sister. But you're forgettable. I'm the one people remember. That's just how it is. You can be mad about it, or you can accept it and move on." She said it so casually, like she was commenting on the weather. She took a sip of her cocktail. "I mean, think about it. When people meet us, who do they ask about later? Me. Always me. I'm the one who makes an impression. You. Blend in. It's not a bad thing. It's just who you are." I sat there, frozen, as she kept talking about her next project, her upcoming brand partnerships, barely noticing I hadn't said another word. She paid for her drink, kissed my cheek, and left. I stayed at that bar for another hour, staring at my reflection in the glass behind the liquor bottles. Forgettable. The word repeated in my head like a curse. I walked home in the dark, Austin's neon signs blurring through tears I didn't let fall until I was alone in my apartment. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror, searching for the flaw, the missing piece, the reason I was so easy to overlook. We had the same face. How could she be unforgettable and I be nothing? I called my grandmother Judith that night. She was 82 by then, her voice softer but still sharp. I told her what Harper said. There was a long silence. Then she said, "Naomi, baby, listen to me. Being loud doesn't make you important. Being seen doesn't make you valuable. You've spent your whole life trying to fit into spaces that were never built for you. Maybe it's time to build your own." I didn't know what she meant. Not yet. But her words stayed with me. A week later, I opened a blank document on my laptop, and I started writing. Not for Harper, not for approval, not to be read, just to exist. I wrote about the bar, the word forgettable, the years of being erased. I wrote until my fingers ached, and for the first time in my life, I didn't ask anyone if it was good enough. I just knew it was mine. That piece I wrote turned into 5 pieces, then 10, then 20. I wrote about being a twin who felt like half a person, about families where love is conditional on visibility, about women who grow up believing their purpose is to make someone else shine brighter. I wrote under a pseudonym, Naomi B., and published them on a small literary platform that paid $20 per essay. No one knew it was me, Not Harper, not my parents, not even my closest friend from the library. The essays started getting traction, comments from people saying, "This is my life," and I thought I was the only one. They were raw and specific and true. That's what made them powerful. I wasn't trying to be relatable or inspirational. I was just finally telling the truth. But my real life was falling apart in slow motion. I was 28, working 2 jobs, living paycheck to paycheck, watching Harper's Instagram following hit 50,000. She'd been featured in Austin Monthly magazine as one of 30 under 30 to watch. The photo was gorgeous. She looked like someone who'd never doubted herself for a second. The article mentioned her difficult journey to authenticity, her struggle with perfectionism. I read it on my lunch break and wanted to scream. She didn't struggle. I did. She took my struggle and turned it into her brand. Then came the email that changed everything. A small press in Brooklyn reached out to Naomi B. They'd been reading my essays for months. They wanted to publish a collection. They wanted to title it, "Everything They Never Told the Quiet Daughter." The advance was modest, $5,000, but it wasn't about the money. Someone wanted my words, my real words, the ones I'd written when I stopped trying to be someone else. I signed the contract in my car, hands shaking, tears streaming down my face. For the first time in my life, I felt like I'd done something that was entirely mine. No one had handed it to me. No one had made space for me. I'd carved it out of nothing. The book was set to publish in 8 months. I didn't tell anyone. I wanted to hold it close, protect it, make sure it was real before the world could take it away. But secrets in families don't stay buried long, especially when one sister watches the other like a hawk. Harper found out by accident. She'd come over to my apartment, something she rarely did because it wasn't photo-worthy, looking for a necklace she'd left months ago. My laptop was open. She glanced at it while I was in the bathroom. When I came out, she was reading an email chain between me and my editor. Her face was unreadable. "What is this?" she asked. I froze. "It's a book. I'm publishing a book." She laughed. Not a nice laugh. A sharp, shocked, almost offended sound. "You're publishing a book? About what? Your exciting life as a librarian?" I felt my stomach drop. "It's about family, identity, being overlooked." Her expression changed. She clicked through my laptop, reading essay titles. "Wait, did you write about me?" I didn't answer fast enough. "Oh my God, Naomi, you wrote about me. You turned our private family stuff into content, without asking." The irony was suffocating. "Harper, you've been doing that for years." She stood up, face flushed. "That's different. I inspire people. I help people. This," she gestured at the screen, "this is just bitter. This is you airing dirty laundry because you're jealous." I stayed calm, calmer than I'd ever been. "I'm not jealous, Harper. I'm tired. I'm tired of being erased." She shook her head. "No one erased you. You erased yourself. You chose to be quiet. You chose to be boring. That's not my fault." Her words hit like punches, but this time they didn't break me. They clarified something. I was a child, Harper. A child who learned her voice didn't matter. And you. I paused, choosing my words carefully. You benefited from that. Every time I stayed silent, you got louder. Every time I made myself smaller, you took up more space. And no one stopped you because it was easier to have one shining star than 2 complicated daughters. She grabbed her purse. "You're delusional, and when this book comes out, no one's going to care, because at the end of the day, Naomi, you're still forgettable." She left, slamming the door. I sat on my couch, breathing hard, waiting for the familiar ache of her rejection to swallow me. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt something new. Clarity. Relief. Freedom. She'd said the quiet part out loud, and somehow that made it lose its power. I called my editor the next day and told her everything. About Harper, about the essays being based on real life, about the risk of publishing. She listened, then said, "Naomi, the whole point of this book is truth. If you water it down to protect someone who hurt you, it won't mean anything. Trust your voice. People need to hear it." So I did. I trusted it. For the first time in my life, I chose my voice over someone else's comfort. 3 months later, my grandmother Judith passed away. It was peaceful in her sleep, but it gutted me. She'd been the only person who truly saw me. At the funeral, Harper gave a beautiful eulogy about how Grandma taught her to be strong, to take up space, to never apologize for shining. I sat in the second row, silent, listening to her rewrite history again. But this time, I didn't feel small. I felt sad for her. Because she didn't understand that Grandma's real lesson, the one she whispered to me on that porch so many years ago, was this: real strength doesn't need an audience. After the service, I found a letter in Grandma's things addressed to me. She'd written it weeks before she died. It said, "Naomi, I always knew you'd find your voice. Don't let anyone convince you it's too quiet to matter. The world is full of noise. What it needs is truth. You have that. Don't let them take it. And don't be afraid to let them hear you, even if it makes them uncomfortable. Especially if it makes them uncomfortable. Love, Judith." I folded the letter and put it in my wallet. I carry it everywhere. The book published 4 months later, in February 2021. I was 28 years old. The cover was simple, cream-colored with black text. My name, Naomi B. No last name, no photo, just words. Harper tried to start her own blog around the same time, something about sisterhood and resilience. She posted motivational quotes and stock photos. But her audience noticed the shift. Comments asked why it felt forced, why it lacked the vulnerability she used to show. She deleted the blog after 6 weeks. My book, meanwhile, quietly found its people. It wasn't a massive bestseller, but it didn't need to be. It resonated. Independent bookstores in Austin started stocking it. People wrote reviews calling it honest, devastating, necessary. And then a TEDx organizer in Austin reached out. They wanted me to speak. The topic: silence, identity, and the cost of being invisible. I accepted. Harper found out through a mutual friend. She called me furious. "You're really going to do this? Publicly humiliate me?" I took a breath. "It's not about you, Harper. It's about me. It's about everyone who's been told they don't matter. If you feel exposed, maybe that's something you need to sit with." She hung up. She didn't call again, and when the day of the talk came, I walked onto that stage knowing exactly what I was going to say, and exactly who would be listening. The months between accepting the TEDx invitation and the actual event felt like living in 2 worlds. In one world, I was still Naomi the librarian, Naomi the copy editor, Naomi who restocked shelves and corrected comma splices. In the other, I was Naomi B., the author whose words people underlined and photographed and sent to friends who needed to hear them. The book kept selling, not thousands of copies, but steady. Hundreds. Then 1,000. Then 5,000. Small literary podcasts wanted to interview Naomi B. I did them over Zoom, camera off, voice only. I talked about sibling dynamics, about favoritism, about the long-term psychological impact of being invisible in your own home. I never mentioned names. I never had to. The people who needed the story recognized themselves in it. That was enough. My parents bought a copy. I don't know if they read it. They never mentioned it. Harper definitely read it. I know because she sent me a single text message. "I hope this was worth it." I didn't respond. Some conversations don't deserve continuation. I turned 29 that October. Harper turned 29 the same day, obviously. She threw a party at a rooftop bar, the same one from her birthday 2 years earlier. She invited 100 people. I wasn't invited. I spent my birthday at a bookstore in South Austin, doing a small reading for about 30 people. It was quiet and intimate and real. Someone asked me how it felt to finally be seen. I said, "It feels like I've been holding my breath for 29 years, and I finally remembered how to exhale." Harper's social media presence started to shift. Her posts became less frequent, less polished. She'd built her brand on authenticity, but the truth was, she'd been performing authenticity. When people started questioning it, started comparing her content to the depth they found in books like mine, she didn't know how to respond. She tried pivoting to wellness, to fitness, to travel. Nothing stuck. Her engagement dropped. Sponsorships slowed. She wasn't failing, not exactly, but she was no longer rising. And for someone who'd spent her whole life climbing, Staying still felt like falling. I heard through a mutual friend that Harper had started therapy. Real therapy, not the kind you post about for engagement. I didn't feel triumphant about it. I felt sad. Sad that it took her this long. Sad that she'd built her entire identity on external validation. Sad that she'd never learned what Grandma Judith tried to teach us both. You are whole on your own. My own life was changing in ways I'd never imagined. I left the library and started writing full-time, freelancing for literary magazines and working on a second book. I moved to a better apartment, one with big windows and light that made me feel less like I was hiding. I met someone, a journalist named Ethan, who'd read my book and reached out to interview me for an Austin culture magazine. We started dating slowly, carefully. He saw me, not as Harper's sister, not as the quiet one, just as Naomi. It felt radical. The TEDx talk loomed on the horizon, 3 months away, then 2, then 1. I rewrote my speech 17 times. I wanted it to be honest without being cruel. I wanted it to tell my truth without destroying Harper. Because here's what I'd learned. My liberation didn't require her destruction. It just required my voice. 2 weeks before the event, Harper called. It was late, almost midnight. Her voice was small. "Nay, can we talk?" I hesitated. "About what?" She was quiet for a moment. "I read your book, all of it, and I need to say something." My heart was pounding. "Okay." She took a breath. "I don't think I ever really saw you. Like, I knew you existed, obviously. But I don't think I ever saw you as a whole person. You were always just the other one, the backup. And I think I liked it that way because it made me feel special. I'm not saying this to make excuses. I'm realizing a lot of things in therapy, about why I needed so much attention, about why I couldn't let anyone else have space." I didn't say anything. I let her sit with the silence. "I know you're doing this talk," she continued, "and I know it's probably about me, about us, and I just wanted to say, I get it. I don't like it, but I get it." I chose my words carefully. "It's not about hurting you, Harper. It's about telling a story that a lot of people live, about what it does to someone when they're told, over and over, that they're less than, that they're forgettable." She was crying. I could hear it. "Did I really say that to you?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "You did." She was quiet for a long time. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm really, really sorry." I closed my eyes. An apology didn't erase 29 years, but it was something. "I appreciate that," I said. "I do. But Harper, I need you to understand, this talk isn't for you. It's for me. It's for everyone who's been where I was. I'm not asking for your permission. I'm just telling you it's happening." She inhaled shakily. "Are you going to use my name?" I shook my head even though she couldn't see me. "No, I'm going to tell my story. People can draw their own conclusions." The night before the talk, I couldn't sleep. I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, looking at my face, the same face Harper had, and I tried to see what she saw. Forgettable. The word had haunted me for 2 years, but standing there, I realized something. I wasn't forgettable. I'd just been forgotten by people who weren't paying attention, and that was never my failing. It was theirs. I thought about Grandma Judith. I thought about every person who'd read my book and said, "This changed me." I thought about Ethan, who loved me not despite my quietness, but because of the depth it created. I thought about every year I'd spent believing I wasn't enough. And I got angry. Not the hot, explosive kind. The cold, clarifying kind. The kind that sharpens your spine and clears your vision. Harper called me forgettable because it made her feel powerful. My parents overlooked me because it was easier than seeing 2 daughters as equally complex. The world ignored me because I'd learned to stay small. But I wasn't small anymore. The next morning, I put on a navy blue dress, simple and elegant. I did my makeup carefully. I looked at myself one more time and said out loud, "They're going to remember you." And then I drove to the venue, my heart pounding, but my hands steady, ready to tell the truth to a room full of strangers, and to one person who knew every word I was about to say. The venue was packed. 300 seats in a renovated theater in downtown Austin, red velvet chairs and stage lights that made everything feel both intimate and enormous. I stood backstage, listening to the murmur of the crowd, my pulse loud in my ears. The organizer, a woman named Patricia, squeezed my shoulder. "You're going to be amazing," she said. "Just speak from the heart." I nodded, not trusting my voice yet. I peeked through the curtain, and there she was. Front row, center seat, Harper. She wore a cream-colored blazer and her hair was pulled back. No dramatic makeup, no performance. She looked small, nervous, human. Our eyes met for a split second. She didn't smile, neither did I. But something passed between us. Acknowledgement, maybe respect, maybe just shared terror. The lights dimmed. Patricia walked onto the stage and introduced me. Our next speaker is an author whose work has resonated deeply with readers across the country. She writes about identity, family, and the courage it takes to find your voice when the world has taught you to stay silent. Please welcome Naomi Blair. Naomi Blair, not Naomi B. My full name, spoken out loud to hundreds of people. I walked onto that stage, legs shaking, heart hammering, and stood behind the podium. The lights were bright and hot. I couldn't see most of the audience. But I could see Harper. And that was enough. I started speaking. My voice came out steady, stronger than I expected. For most of my life, I was invisible. Not because I didn't exist, but because no one was looking. I am a twin. And if you've never been a twin, you might think it means you're never alone. But I learned early that you can be genetically identical to someone and still feel like you're living in a different universe. The room was silent, listening. From the moment we were born, my sister and I were treated like opposite ends of a scale. She was the one people remembered. I was the one people forgot they'd met. She got the attention, the affection, the investment. I got the leftovers. And for a long time, I believed that was fair. I believed there was something wrong with me, some defect I couldn't see, that made me less deserving of love. I paused, letting the words settle. Harper's face was unreadable. When you grow up in the shadow of someone who shares your face, you start to wonder if you're even real. You start to think maybe you're just a placeholder, a backup in case the original breaks. I spent my childhood trying to earn the love my sister received by default. I tried to be smarter, kinder, more useful. It didn't work, because the problem was never me. The problem was that my family had already decided who mattered. I saw Harper's hands grip the armrests of her chair. And here's the thing about being invisible. You learn to stay quiet. You learn to take up less space. You learn to watch instead of participate. And people mistake that for contentment. They think you're fine because you're not causing problems. But silence isn't peace. It's survival. I took a breath, feeling the weight of 29 years in my chest. My sister once told me I was forgettable. She said it casually, like it was a fact we both understood. And for a long time, I believed her. I believed that being loud was the same as being important, that being seen was the same as having value. But I was wrong, and so was she. I looked directly at Harper. Her eyes were wet. Being forgotten doesn't mean you're forgettable. It means the people around you weren't paying attention. And that's on them, not you. I spent my whole life waiting for my family to see me, to choose me, to tell me I was enough. And they didn't. They chose comfort over honesty. They chose the easy narrative over the complicated truth. And that hurt. God, it hurt. My voice cracked slightly. I steadied it. But here's what I've learned. You don't need to be chosen by people who refuse to see you. You don't need to be validated by the people who taught you to doubt yourself. You just need to choose yourself. You need to look at your own reflection and say, I am here. I am whole. I am enough. And I don't need anyone's permission to take up space. The audience was completely still. I felt the words landing. So to anyone listening who has ever felt invisible, who has ever been compared and found lacking, who has ever been told they're too quiet, too sensitive, too much or not enough, I see you. Your voice matters. Your story matters. You matter. Not because someone finally noticed you, but because you exist. And that's enough. I looked at Harper one more time. She was crying, not performing, not curating, just crying. My sister is here tonight. She knows this story is about us, about our family, about the damage that happens when love is conditional and attention is currency. I'm not here to destroy her. I'm here to free myself. And maybe, if she's willing, to free us both. I stepped back from the podium. The room erupted in applause. It wasn't polite applause. It was the kind that shakes the walls, the kind that says, "We felt that." I walked off stage, my legs barely holding me, and collapsed into a chair in the wings. Patricia hugged me. "That was extraordinary," she said. But I wasn't listening. I was watching the monitor that showed the audience. Harper was standing, she was clapping, and she was still crying. After the event, I stood in the lobby, talking to people who wanted to thank me, to tell me their stories, to say they'd felt invisible too. It was overwhelming and beautiful and exhausting. And then the crowd parted, and Harper was there. We stood facing each other in the middle of that crowded lobby, twin mirrors, same face, different lives. She didn't try to hug me. She just said, "I heard you." Her voice was raw, honest. "I really actually heard you, for the first time." I nodded. I didn't need to respond. She continued quieter now. "I don't know if I can fix what I did. I don't know if sorry is enough, but I want to try. Not for content, not for an audience, just to try." I looked at her, this person who'd taken up so much space in my life, who'd hurt me in ways I was still unpacking, who'd also been shaped by the same family dynamics that broke me. "Harper," I said slowly, "I forgive you for a lot of things. But I'm not going back to who I was. I'm not shrinking again so you can feel bigger. If you want a relationship with me, it has to be different, equal, real." She nodded quickly. "I know, I want that too." I studied her face. "Then let's start small. Let's start honest." We didn't hug. We didn't make grand promises. We just stood there, two women who'd spent 29 years growing in opposite directions, finally facing each other as equals. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but it was real. And that was better. Weeks later, my book hit the regional bestseller list. Harper texted me a screenshot with a single word. "Proud." I texted back, "Thank you." It wasn't much, but it was a start. I'm 32 now. Harper is too, obviously. We're not close, not the way people expect twins to be, but we're honest. She's working on herself, building a life that doesn't depend on external validation. I'm writing my second book, living in a world I built with my own hands. Sometimes we have coffee, sometimes we don't talk for weeks, and that's okay. Because I'm not defined by her anymore. I'm not the shadow or the backup or the forgotten one. I'm just Naomi. And I'm unforgettable. Not because I'm loud, not because I demand attention, but because I finally stopped asking for permission to exist. I stopped waiting for someone to see me and started seeing myself. And once you do that, once you really understand your own worth, no one can take it from you. My grandmother Judith was right. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more truth. And the truth is this: you don't have to be chosen to matter. You don't have to be seen to be valuable. You just have to choose yourself. Believe in yourself. Show up for yourself. And the rest, all the recognition and validation and applause, becomes background noise. Because at the end of the day, the only person who needs to remember you is you. I was never forgettable. I was just surrounded by people who weren't worth remembering me. And that's the difference. That's the lesson. That's the freedom. My name is Naomi Blair. I am a twin. I am a writer. I am whole. And I am finally free. This story, while dramatized, is inspired by the real experiences of countless individuals who have lived in the shadow of a sibling, constantly compared and chronically overlooked. Being genetically identical yet emotionally discarded teaches you something profound. Your worth was never determined by who saw you, but by who you chose to become when no one was looking. These aren't just stories. They are lessons in self-worth, resilience, and the courage to choose yourself when no one else does. Before you go, I want to ask you, Have you ever been constantly compared to a sibling or someone close? How did that shape who you are today? And for those who felt invisible in their own families, what was the moment you decided to finally see yourself? Is it possible to forgive those who made you feel forgettable, or is moving forward without them the truest form of freedom? If this story resonated with you, if you felt the pain, the struggle, and ultimately the liberation, write the word unforgettable in the comments so I know you stayed until the end. And tell me, what city are you watching from? I would love to know where this message is reaching. If you found value in this story, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that might change how you see yourself. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who is still fighting to be seen. And don't forget to click on the next video in the cards above, because every story here carries a message worth hearing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And remember, you were never half of anyone. You were always whole.